My name is Megan Fox and I am pleased to present Research Snapshot number 21 on behalf of professionals and researchers in early childhood intervention, commonly known as PRACE. I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. I pay my respect to the elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. The title of the paper I am presenting is Teacher Perspectives and Approaches Toward Promoting Inclusion in Play-Based Learning for Children with Developmental Disabilities. The authors are Danniels and Angela Pyle. This paper interests me as I come from an early childhood teacher background and I'm always reflecting on how we can improve on inclusive practices for all children in our care. Children with neurodevelopmental delay and disability, or as abbreviated in the paper, NDD, tend to experience greater social isolation than typically developing children, including low rates of engagement in social play. Inclusion in play is important because play is a central context for social, emotional, and developmental growth during early childhood. Teachers' beliefs and practices matter. How they conceptualize inclusion can affect children's access to meaningful play and thus their learning and development. This research explored how a group of kindergarten teachers conceptualized and supported the inclusion of children with NDD in play-based classrooms. The research was guided by the following questions. How do teachers conceptualize inclusion in the play-based kindergarten classroom? How do teachers view the role of play in promotion of inclusion in kindergarten? And how do kindergarten teachers support the inclusion of children with neurodevelopmental delay and disability in play? The researchers conducted a qualitative study with teachers in 8 play-based kindergarten classrooms in Ontario, Canada. The research involved observations and semi-structured interviews which explored their views on what inclusion looks like, the role of play in inclusion, how they support children with neurodevelopmental delay and disability, and their beliefs about disability and teaching. The researchers then compared teacher beliefs with observed practices to identify alignment or mismatch in how they supported children with neurodevelopmental delay and disability in play. There were limitations to the scope of the research due to pandemic-related school closures. Sampling procedures shifted. Consequently, not every classroom contained children with neurodevelopmental delay and disability. However, each teacher reported previous experience teaching children with NDD in kindergarten and spoke directly about those experiences. What did the research find? Alongside environmental considerations, 7 of the 8 teachers endorsed direct teacher involvement in children's play to support inclusion. Teachers discussed supporting positive social interactions among children, including a lot of prompting and coaching. 6 teachers held interventionist beliefs about disability and teaching. They saw the responsibility for supporting children's learning and social participation as lying with the teacher and the environment, not just the child. Perceived barriers to inclusion in play remain. Children with neurodevelopmental delay and disability often preferred solitary or parallel play, which could limit peer interaction. Some typically developing peers avoided playing with children with NDD. And certain play preferences, such as repetitive and sensory play, were viewed by some teachers as lower quality or less valuable learning. Not surprisingly, the study suggests that teachers' beliefs matter. All teachers viewed play-based learning positively, seeing it as a powerful context for early development. For many, play offered children with neurodevelopmental delay and disability important opportunities for social, emotional, and sometimes academic growth and participation. How can you use this research? This research is thought-provoking for anyone working in the early years space. This research study provides an opportunity to reflect and consider. How is inclusion defined in your setting? Is it just proximity or real social participation? Using the strategies identified in the paper, such as adapting materials, scaffolding, collaborative support, you could design more inclusive play environments for children with developmental differences. You could utilise this paper and unpack it alongside frameworks from your country, such as in Australia, the Early Years Framework and the National Best Practice Framework for Early Childhood Intervention. These frameworks have useful guidance and tools to further explore how you as an individual teacher or educator conceptualise inclusion for neurodevelopmental delay and disability children in mainstream settings. You could use the paper to advocate with policymakers or centre leadership. This research provides qualitative evidence that inclusion in play needs active teacher support, resources and training to be meaningful. Where to from here? Investigate children's own perspective. How do neurodevelopmentally delayed and disability children experience inclusive play? Extend this research to a larger sample of teachers or different contexts, such as different regions or school systems, to see whether the findings are generalised. You could also look at some of the other literature and resources that we've listed. You can find quick links to these in the summary on the research snapshot, including a resource from the National Best Practice Framework for Early Childhood Intervention. Looks like, doesn't look like, participation. A little bit about the researchers. E. Danniels and A. Pyle work at the University of Toronto, Canada. They conduct research in early childhood education, focusing on inclusion, play, and developmental diversity. Their work highlights teacher perspectives and practices in real-world early childhood settings. I'd like to thank you for taking the time today to listen to this research snapshot, and please head over to our website to find more research snapshots and look at how we can translate research to practice. Thank you for listening.